think the important part for me is not that generative AI has gotten so good. It's that we've tolerated human writers that are that bad and easy to replace for too long. But the easiest thing I always think, and I've helped clients pick, specialist agencies, is like, look at their work, like look at their content for themselves. Like if they don't do any, the content marketing agency isn't doing content about content marketing. Why not? Do they not believe in it? And if they are, how good is it? Are they doing it well? Is it strategic? Do you love it? Do you want more of it? This is the best sign. There's only one thing kids are more scared of than death, and that's embarrassment. Kids don't want to be embarrassed. That's a visceral thing for them. Don't die dumb, and so they took that and made this gorgeous thing out of it. And it was just the most confident thing in the world to do. Like someone came up with the idea, someone else heard it and said yes instead of no. We can't do that. We can't make a joke out of dying. Well, look what happens when you can. So
what is one missed opportunity that you wish you could have a second chance at?
I was once invited to be kind of a senior guy in a Bangkok office of an agency. And I was young and I was maybe too scared and didn't. And who knows what my life would have been like.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Just Ravi. Subscribe to my channel for conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas. Ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hi, Doug. Thrilled to have you on my show.
Hi, I've got plenty of edges. I'm not sure which kind.
Every edge is the good kind.
Okay.
So good to know you have many. And if I requested you to tweet your profile, what would you say?
You know what? Right now I wouldn't tweet it because I've suspended my account because of Elon Musk. He's such a juvenile and narcissist that I felt terrible about being on the platform. So I took it off the phone, but I'm still on it. I'm at Doug Kessler. And so I'd probably just say something like, help, I'm a prisoner of B2B. It's an old fortune cookie joke where someone opens a fortune cookie at a Chinese restaurant and says, help, I'm a prisoner in a fortune cookie factory. And this would be, mine would be help, I'm a prisoner in B2B, although I've always loved it, actually.
Awesome. And so B2B, and you're helping through brand building, content, all entire marketing integrated elements.
That's right. I'm one of the founders of an agency called Velocity Partners. We do B2B and we do tech. So it's all tech B2B stuff and has always been. And we've never even been tempted to stray from that. We're happy there. That's our home spot.
Yes. And velocity is something that we come back to when we talk about content. As of now, we'll start with, you've talked about power of galvanizing story and how absence of it is not going to integrate various marketing elements. And everybody's talking about story, everybody's talking about a narrative, but each marketing element, you weave it through one story. It's not an easy task because every medium is different and specialists are doing it. It's just too many vendors that a marketer is dealing with, and how much can you translate? So how do you go about it? What are the characteristics of a good galvanizing story, and how does it reflect a good story through the various mediums?
Great question. So for me, we kind of evangelize this idea of galvanizing story. I do want to give a hat tip to Andy Raskin, who has a similar 5-step framework. We developed them independently, but we kind of merged them together because he's full of smart things. So just want to give credit there. But it is our own IP, I suppose. But what it is really is just a guiding narrative that unifies all of that marketing and selling that you do. And it's designed to overcome inertia, because for most velocity clients, for most B2B companies, that's really the enemy. It isn't other companies. It's this doing nothing. It's just staying with what you got. And so really it's designed to do that. And what it isn't really is just this template where you fill it out and you're done. And it's a really quick, easy thing. It's more thought out than that. And it's not something you shove in everyone's face all the time. It's something that is the story underneath everything. It's got 5 parts. The first is the most important probably, which is the change in the world. Like what has changed that makes your prospects or your buyers need to change what they do. So that's that addressing of the inertia. And then it goes on to the new potential that's now available. It talks about the obstacle to getting to that potential, which is a hugely important part of it too. What's stopping people? And then the breakthrough, which generally is connected to the company. What have we done to make it now possible to realize that potential? And then the payoff. If you come with us and we do that, why is it going to be so good for you? So these are things that we think is extremely important that a company can answer. And once they have good, solid answers and agree to that story, all the other marketing really kind of aligns around it and feels unified. And so customers don't feel like, wow, they're just cranking out a bunch of opinions everywhere. There's always this sense of, no, this is the mission they're on, and I get it. And so it makes a huge difference.
So you're starting with a larger context and perhaps identifying an emerging trend or something when you say the change, because not every category might be able to identify a change, but there are emerging trends happening. I'm just saying this so that my audiences can connect and they can utilize the framework
Sure.
from like tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it should be usable that fast. And there's always change is absolutely constant. There is always a change. If there is absolutely nothing's changed very much in this world, then inertia is not, you're not going to really get them to stand up and do anything differently. They're already fine. But if you point out something that actually has changed, then there's guaranteed to be something. You can start making them see, aha. And the interesting part about the change one is that it shouldn't be controversial and startling. It shouldn't be this kind of like, usually marketing is you always make something a little bit controversial and debatable. This is like, no, they should recognize this as their world. Now it needs to be told in a fresh enough way that they haven't seen it every time. Like if you go to a retailer and say, customers are demanding more than ever, that's my change. It's just not fresh, who cares? And so, but you can't do something incredibly debatable that they may not agree with. It has to be a true reflection, something they're experiencing. And so if you nail that change, like that's why you have to pay attention. That big thing we've talked about, let's say it's the new regulation coming along, or it's, Google deprecating cookies for a MarTech company, or, it can be kind of supply side, like AI is here and is now unleashed all this potential for you. So it doesn't have to be a demand side trend, though we look generally for those. So yeah, the change is a hugely important part of it.
So establishing your relevance in it and the consumer's perspective in terms of what they need is going to be a very palpable story, because something's happening and you are going to make a difference to the consumer's life through it. So it's very relevant and alive in that sense. So that's why you say galvanizing story, right? It's not just a story. So brand could have a story, but now you've situated it to point in time that is now, and hence it's galvanized. Am I right?
Absolutely. And it's we love the word. It's a strong word. All the synonyms are really muscular and like, jolt and startle and stir and spur and prod and shock people and urge them and motivate, so it needs to make them do something, make them want to lean in and do something. And if it's credible and well told and they recognize their world, it creates kind of an urgency. It creates oh no, I need to find out more about this.
Doug, do you want to share an example here?
Sure. Well, look, some of the great brands in B2B, let's say HubSpot, and they are a client, but we didn't do this for them. They were doing this before we came along. They came with their galvanizing story was really, look, the change in the world is buyers don't buy the same way anymore that they used to. This outbound spamming is just not working. They hate it. And, the new potential was if you could engage people in ways they do like, you're going to do way better. They called it inbound marketing as the breakthrough. They told all about why inbound was so much better than outbound. And they were evangelizing this idea. And it was a wonderful, tight, simple story that was everywhere. And now they've kind of grown beyond the simple inbound marketing. They're a CRM company and they have a new story. But what got them there, was this clear, simple, tight, galvanizing story. And you'll see it in ones like Drift, conversational marketing, which I think they also have outgrown, but that's what got them there. The really tight, simple story that people with very little engagement with them could soon tell others what they were all about.
Yeah, yeah. So then it becomes differentiated also, just by virtue of where the brand lens is focused on. I mean, that itself becomes differentiated. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Doug, now we come to content. So there are a lot of myths. There's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of let's integrate it. Let's go to a specialist. It should be part of the brand context and story. No, it can be like a sub brand because you have to respond fast. And in the now, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. And what I find most interesting is that the people we hire to do content, like suppose there's a marketing team, there are digital team, social media, e-com, everything is there. And then you get very young social, content writers, very young, and they'll come with their own fundas of what works. They're agile and they understand the medium very well. They're really early 20s and all, but they don't understand marketing. They don't understand brand. I'd request you to talk about the 6 principles of great content brands. And if you'd like to elaborate on what you mean by great content brands. And while you're talking about, let's break some myths for our audiences, wheat from chaff, what it is and what it is not.
Okay, right. So for us, a great content brand is one that is famous for producing smart, helpful, honest, entertaining content that is always worth consuming. And so we started talking about this back in the days. I think about 10 years ago, we wrote a piece called Crap about how we're all getting buried in content and how what we need to focus on is creating a great content brand. Now, everyone knows what a great brand is, like a product brand. But people don't think that much about the content brand. And it's just as important that if someone sees, that piece of content is from this company, I'm way, way more likely to download it and give it a try than if it's from that company that doesn't have a great content brand. Now, they may have a great product brand, but their content has not earned great content brand status. So I think, well, I may or may not like that content. It might be relevant, it might not. It might be smart or entertaining. It might be a little stilted. That's not a great content brand. And so what you need to pair up with your core brands is content brand so that everything you do, people think they worked hard at that. They're good at it. They're being honest with me and helping. There's this coming from a place of helping. They're also recognizing that entertaining is part of this. Like the content experience has to be good. Doesn't mean funny all the time. Dancing can be super serious, but it needs to be well written, well crafted, well designed. If it's digital, it has to be an engaging experience. So those are all part of it. In the piece called Crap, when we introduce the idea of a great content brand, we did talk about six things, which I think pretty much stood the test of time.
I'd interrupt you a little bit here. So when you say a great content brand is a brand that's famous for producing great content.
Yeah, and great is broken down a little bit to say, what is that? I mean, it's smart, helpful, honest, entertaining, well-crafted, well-considered content. Yeah.
Yes. So in the content perspective, the kind of content that works, that gets you the metrics that matter, whether it's organic reach or virality or, likes, shares, comments, etc. A brand can be a great brand, but it has to become a great content brand as well. So it's a separate dimension that they have to perform on.
Absolutely.
Right? So in B2C, like typically Doug, we consider a brand like Zomato, I don't know, this is an Indian brand, or Netflix, all these very approachable brands create a lot of good content that gets people talking and they relate to it. That's fun. So they're a good brand, They are a great brand at the service they are providing and the product, but they're also a great content brand. So it's a separate dimension.
That's
Am I?
right. I mean, someone like a Netflix, it's a little more confusing because their product is content. And
Yes, sorry.
so it's not the same as most companies and the B2B companies we deal with. They have a product, but the content is something else. But it still applies. Netflix is a brand, and it says, look, if it's made the Netflix platform, it's got over a threshold of quality. It's going to be a certain kind of good. And you're not going to like everything you see on there. It's not all to your taste, but it's going to be above a threshold. You don't expect terrible production values, a story that wasn't even thought out. You just expect, look, Netflix is offering this. They have a good enough content brand for me to say I'll give it a go, or at least feel like I might like it. So it's similar, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I should have taken a Domino's or something. Yeah. Because that's a content brand only. Okay, but I think the point our audiences and me have got. You talked about the crap. There's a C factor, and there's another C factor that you've talked about, content, which is going to make it work. So shall we talk about the 6 principles? Will that get covered?
Sure, we can zip through. I mean, they're ones that I don't think are surprising, but having said that, I don't think they're very well practiced either. So it's worth going over. And one is this: be the buyer. So that's the empathy part. You must start with, what do they want to know, need to know, that we are also an authority in helping them with, which is the second point of be authoritative. People, you need to stay in your sweet spot. What have you got a right to talk to people about? What are you expert in that you can really help them with? So that's be authoritative. Then it's be strategic. That means don't just put out random acts of content. Have them add up to more than the sum of the parts. And that's kind of where galvanizing story comes in, and a proper strategy. Be prolific, I said in that piece. I think really now it's not really about how much, obviously, but be prolific means be committed to content as something you're committed to. Whatever the cadence is right for you and your company, could be one great piece a quarter, it could be a blog post a week, it could be both of those. Do that. Don't just kind of put something out, go away for a year and expect it to work. The next was be passionate. So you got to care about this stuff. And if you really don't, if you're writing about something that bores you, it's going to bore everyone else. So you got to let yourself be passionate about this thing. And the last was be tough on yourself, be honest. If this is not great, kill it. And that's an essential part of building a great content brand, is be willing to kill something you worked really hard on that just isn't making the threshold. And you think, you know what, it's not adding enough to the conversation. It's not fresh enough. It's not good enough for this audience. We're going to kill this thing. And so if we killed more, our chances of keeping a really strong content brand go up.
So like you said, committing to it, and you've mentioned and you've talked about, have a calendar, define what you're going to achieve, what are your objectives going to be, what formats and what mediums you'll be present in. So have your strategy in place, have your calendar in place, whatever might be the frequency that you commit to. Then this whole thing about being part of, and you could please take B2B examples. When you are saying let it be part of your galvanized story, how is it on point or complementing, or how does it really work? Because this whole thing of the recency and the topicality of it, so there's a FIFA World Cup and everybody's gonna talk about it, so our one post has to go, which has to be cheeky, and in our because for our audiences something has to go out. That can't be the brand communication. I mean, the brand is going to talk something else, but how do you ensure that you don't become just what everybody is doing at that point in time, just to be included? You keep your own tone of voice, and yet you have anyways built in some amount of fluidity in your content strategy. How do you keep the two going? And like for FMCG brands or for health brands, this is always a challenge. How my tone of voice is very serious, credible, and I'm always educating and all that, and now I have to be entertaining at that point in time, and and I don't want to be left around. So it's a very different mindset. It's a new mindset. Let me say
Yeah.
for marketers, and that there's a struggle. So how does one resolve this?
It's a really good question. I feel like, a big part of this is about the content mix. And that if you think about it, your content mix consciously, then you don't ask any one piece to do the job of all of them, which we feel a lot of people do that. It's like every time we get their attention, we have to tell them our whole story and pack in all the benefits and pack in all the features and pack in all the case studies and social proof and everything. It's like, actually, if you think of the mix and let each piece do one thing really, really well, and it's still going to be attached to your galvanizing story down there, but it doesn't have to tell the whole thing. Like it might be, let's say, the change in the world. You want to write about that, and you're not going to do the rest of it right now. Or you're going to do a brand thing where you find a belief of the company and you want to celebrate that belief. That's all you do. You don't do all the other things, and let each piece of content do something brilliantly without having to do it all. I think that's part of answering the question. And, a part is also breaking some of the conventions, the pressure you're talking about, like, oh, World Cup's coming, we got to have something for it. Well, do you? Like think about, do you really, if everyone's doing it, maybe we sit that one out and do something really interesting about the Women's World Cup, which is, a month later, and no one's writing about it, or, maybe it isn't even football that we need to connect to here. But so I like to challenge those conventions where you think, hey, it's Valentine's Day. Of course, if you're a chocolate brand and you ignore Valentine's Day, it's malpractice. But if you're a software company, you can probably let a bunch of those things pass without having to feel you're attaching yourself to them. So resisting the obvious play will help as well.
So, what do you find the practice? What do you feel about the practice of content pillars? Apart from the format objectives, just defining some pillars around which the content will be, in the sense that, like you said, so one of our content pillars is going to talk about everyday management tips. The other is going to be talking about the science of it.
Oh, yeah.
Third one is going to build a food narrative, because that's the stage the category is at. We have to build some associations in education, but there's just too much. Let's divide it, and if we build these pillars, our roof for brand communication will really work better, because we're gonna take people from point zero. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I love that. I love, a pillar or a theme to say, look, what I like most about it, it's saying what we'll write about or do content about, but it's also saying what we won't. Like yes, we could write about 100 things. We're not going to. We're going to pick a solid core that we really feel are important to get across and associate our brand with, and do those really well. I think that's a great practice, and that should be in your strategy. What are our big themes? What are our big pillars? There should be, I think, enough flexibility to bring in things that are a little bit tangential. They're not out there, but they're just a little, like our blog will have some tangential things. We're just interested in the world, and they're going to touch. We'll always make a bridge to B2B marketing and everything. They will always touch something and be relevant, but sometimes they wouldn't have been in a pillar plan on their own. And so a little bit of freedom to do that, because you want to keep people enjoying the hell out of doing this. Like everybody who's involved with it has to love it and want to have fun. Fun leads you to weird places. And if it's just like, oh, I got to tick a box for that persona, that stage, and this pillar, you got to do that work and make it great and love it. But be open to, wow, I saw this thing on the way to work today. I really want to write about that. It's relevant. And so we like to keep fun as a motivator. And our writers for our blog, it's like, have fun. If you want to write about that, write about that. And, you're all good enough to know if it doesn't belong in this blog here, if it's not for our audience. And so I like to keep a bit of that freedom, but I do like the idea of know your pillars for sure.
So the fun aspect, if we have to decode that, there's certain brands. So humor works, connects. I mean, as much as a story does, humor does. It's the most human part of us. You'll really open up and you'll connect, and all of that works. So that having been said, there are certain categories that will shy away from it, like health, pharma. Generally speaking, conventionally speaking, and maybe finance to some extent. So they'd be like, we don't want to we want to be taken seriously. And this is not us. This is not our persona. This is not our brand voice. So they're very afraid of experimenting and being bold at times. Like one of the things you've said is that if you are bold and if a little bit provocative at times, but because you believe in it so much that you're going to say it as it occurs to you. It's not too sensationalized, but you believe in it so strongly, it has to come out like that. And yet we have to yet cover that other C, which I'm not going to say, you only going to say, because I was damn curious when I said, okay, which is this other C now?
Yeah.
And I really like that you played with C's only for content. So
Right.
how do we decode this? Because I'm wondering, is there a spectrum of humor? And I've just taken humor as an example because there is a certain trial and error that also needs to happen for content, perhaps. And if you could talk about that. So, experimentation. How do you work with humor and fun? Because the surprise element is not there, then how is it going to engage?
Okay, sure. So one of the things that I think unites the themes you're talking about here is the other C word. So we had this piece of content called Crap, and it went really big. I think it's like broke 6 million views so far. And so we put out a piece called The Other C Word. And I know that's a little bit like risque, but the word was actually not the one you might expect. What we did was we took all the work we loved and put it on a conference room table. We just said, guys, bring 5, 10 things you love from 20 years ago, today, tomorrow. Just bring it all on the table. We want to find out what makes great content great or great marketing great. And it was such a diverse bunch. Some of it was very funny. Some of it was just hardworking. Some of it was beautiful and crafted. But those things didn't unite all these things. And what did unite, there was the only thing that actually united it all was confidence. That's the other C word. It was confident marketing, which is, to me, one of the most important things that you could ever do in your marketing is to signal confidence. What that means is not arrogance or overconfidence. It means we know we're good at this and we're enjoying what we do. That's kind of the fun part too. We like what we do for a living. We love helping our clients or customers or selling this product to consumers. We love it. And we also love marketing it. We're having fun doing that. Creating content around it is also something we love. All of that signals confidence. This is a company that knows and we all want to work with people like that. We all want to be a part of brands like that who are actually enjoying themselves. And again, that doesn't mean everything's a party. It doesn't mean necessarily humor. It can mean it. And I think, a bit of charm is appropriate to every market. Now, comedy, maybe not, but certainly a bit of a twinkle and a bit of a smile is always going to be something people respond to. And, when I think of the things that were on that table, one of my favorites is Dumb Ways to Die. Do you know that video, Dumb Ways to Die? Wonderful piece of work for trying to get kids not to play on train tracks, right? And you think, well, you do the obvious thing, show a train, scare the kids, right? They went the opposite way and they did this delightful thing. And it was the confidence to do this animated cartoon of all these really quite gross ways to die, a snake biting you in the eye and all these terrible, made it fun and funny. And one of the dumb ways is getting hit by a train. It worked so much more effectively. It actually brought down deaths on tracks in Western Australia where it was done. And it was based on this beautiful little psychological insight. We're talking to kids here. There's only one thing kids are more scared of than death, and that's embarrassment. Kids don't want to be embarrassed. That's a visceral thing for them. Don't die dumb, and so they took that and made this gorgeous thing out of it. And it was just the most confident thing in the world to do. Like someone came up with the idea, someone else heard it and said yes instead of no. We can't do that. We can't make a joke out of dying. Well, look what happens when you can. So this confidence, and you mentioned the word experiment. I think it's a huge part of this. Brands that aren't used to playing in these areas should ring fence a little experiment budget and say that box over there, that money, that time will be spent on things that scare us, that we don't think are right for us, but we're not sure. We want to find out. It doesn't mean you have to run them, but do them, make them, explore them. And if there's an experiment budget, you get a little freedom. Like, look, we're already doing our mofu, bofu, tofu. We're already doing all our demand gen work, and we're doing it well. But this budget is to go make a Dumb Ways to Die or an Epic Split, the Volvo Trucks one. Let's find out. And I think if we all just had this budget, no one could touch for anything but experiments, we'd find, wow, people finding that voice you're talking about.
And the opposite of confidence is fear. So confidence and fear. So you fight the fear and experiment with confidence. And one way is that to make sure that you keep doing it, because you can always relegate it and deprioritize it, is keeping some budget for it.
Yeah,
that's really going to push you that, okay, we have to use it. And like you said, you need not run it, but just do it, and you would be surprise yourself, and you might just find something that works actually.
And I think fear is it's a survival emotion, but we want to make people scared of the right things. Be scared of bland. Be scared of boring. Those are high risk activities because they don't work, and you're wasting your money. So we want people to feel that's the scary route, is to just tick the boxes and make marketing that looks like marketing, it smells like marketing, and doesn't raise a single eyebrow to anybody. That is a high risk strategy to me, because it's going to fail.
And now there are 3 A, B, C parts to my question. I'm going to say them all together. One is, why do you say content marketing is the single biggest threat to content marketing? Then B, role of AI. And C, how to take inspiration from other great content and why it's not stealing.
Okay, yes. Great. All right, on why content marketing is the biggest threat to content marketing is just the sheer volume. And we wrote that piece crap because we were worried about that. It's like, this content thing is great, it's really effective, but what happens if everybody keeps making more and more and more of it, the quality goes down, and it starts not working as hard? And I think I'm afraid that we're kind of experiencing that as an industry, that too much not good enough content has devalued it, so that it's harder to make a piece of really good content stand out. And this is all the more reason to have a great content brand, so that yours gets that attention that others are struggling to get. And so, it connects to the AI thing, because now with Chat GPT and generative AI, and there's going to be even more and more and more. There are people who are non-creatives who can push the right buttons and prompt the right tools to generate blog posts, generate content. It's here, it's coming, and I think it will make the problem worse as far as too much content that isn't very thoughtful. As far as AI, I've been playing with it and writing some blog posts about it. Even had the bot write one of my blog posts and analyzed how it worked. And I must say I was quite surprised at how human-like it was, and it was a bit scary. And what I realized was, it makes you see that what great writing is great thinking, not just sentence building. It's great at sentence building, and it does credible, human-like sentences. But it doesn't come up with new ideas or fresh ideas or any ideas at all, really. It just harvests what's out there. And so that's not to say don't be worried, guys. I think what we're seeing is that I think the important part for me is not that generative AI has gotten so good. It's that we've tolerated human writers that are that bad and easy to replace for too long. And so, wow, it's outperforming those low-paid content factory we've got. Well, yeah, they sucked, and they still suck. And the fact that a robot can do it better just tells you, why have we been letting that happen? I think the AI gold rush that's happening will kind of clarify that. It'll flush out the kind of lazy hacks who just phone it in and type, and let the really interesting thinker writers rise to the top and start to shine. So I find it a very positive thing. I know it's already replacing some writers, but if you're replaceable by Chat GPT today, you're not very good. You're not very good at what you're doing. And so there may be, fringe roles where that's okay, but in most cases, you got to raise your game.
Yeah.
On the stealing one, I'm a big fan of stealing, and I don't mean plagiarizing, and some people think I do. I really don't. I mean whatever delights you. Let's say it was that Dumb Ways to Die, right? You look at it and say, well, what delighted me? And it turns out it was the bravery and it was the psychological insight about embarrassment. Now I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to go look for psychological truth in some of my clients. Like, that's what I want to steal. It's nothing that they would recognize once I'm done. Or in Epic Split, that wonderful Volvo trucks thing, they just focus on this one feature of the truck, which is precision steering in reverse, right? And he does this split. It's beautiful. Now I think, well, I've been talking about all these features. What if I just pick one from a client, zoom in and do the best demo in the world of that feature? Now I'm into Epic Split land, but I'm not stealing from it. I'm really being inspired by it. And I think a lot of the best work, instead of just saying, oh, I love that, I love that, I love that, say, I love that. Why do I love that? Where can I use what I love about that in my work? And now we've done a proper steal that really could pay off.
Yeah, and creativity is based on, building on what is there. I mean, so as a child, we learn to do that. As a human being, we learn to do that. So yeah, why not take it from a great content and take a leap?
Absolutely. And they stole it too. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
So whoever you're stealing it from, they were inspired by somebody else.
Yeah, and behavioral science says that human beings want familiarity with a twist. So
yeah,
so you don't have to be that different, yet you have to have your own fresh perspective. So yeah, actually, okay. And when you're talking about AI, I made ChatGPT write a rap song about, and I gave it a topic, and I was just trying to remember what was the topic. I couldn't remember. And the first, like you said, the first the impressed part happens that, oh my God, there's actually a rap song. Then they've just written with a little very small brief.
In second.
Yeah. But did it move you? And did it do something to you, in that particular manner? That no. So I loved when you said that the mediocre, obvious ideas. So actually, you can make Chat GPT help you figure out which are the obvious ideas, because whatever it is churning out, you're like, okay, these are the first obvious ideas. Let me put them away now. What is it that Chat GPT is not going to think of?
That's a good idea. I like that idea. That's because it's going to do the essence of the expected. That's what it does. It's like the most likely next word in this sentence type thing. So you're saying, oh, generate it and say, we have to go against that. We have to break that. That's a cool technique.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Now, how should marketers choose an appropriate content agency? And I seriously, I think marketers are very conflicted about this, Doug, because they're also getting tired of having to deal with so many experts, so many vendors, so many specialist agencies. Yet everything is a specialist hat. Like social media person does understand a lot of things, but they don't appreciate e-com that much. And the e-com person is going to talk about e-com banner, and they won't understand the post and the content that much. It's like just getting familiar with the terms, but to make it happen, they won't know what works, what doesn't work. So how does this work that you need specialists and yet you need integration? Do you really need specialists? How do you resolve this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one way to think about it is not so much will this agency succeed for us? It's like, will we together, us and them, be a successful team to make this thing great? And that means knowing yourself really well. We're good at this, we're good at that, we're not so good at this. And so knowing what you already feel you're strong at and recognizing what you're not, because sometimes it is that mix. They're a great agency, but it just wasn't a great match for you. So there is that in the chemistry and the like-mindedness, But the easiest thing I always think, and I've helped clients pick, specialist agencies, it's like, look at their work, like look at their content for themselves. Like if they don't do any, the content marketing agency isn't doing content about content marketing. Why not? Do they not believe in it? And if they are, how good is it? Are they doing it well? Is it strategic? Do you love it? Do you want more of it? This is the best sign. And if you're not doing it, you really got to wonder. Um, so that's the thing I look at. Look at their own, not their case studies, their own content for themselves.
It struck, I mean, yeah, really, because half the times we are actually evaluating like that. Every brand strategists, we are like, oh God, have they done anything like that for themselves? Because we say personal branding and all that. I mean, we didn't apply it. Whether we say it or not, we actually that's a very important part of our own evaluation.
Well, our most successful client relationships, they came to us because they looked and said, this is the kind of marketing we want to do. And someone who does that and then approaches is 10 times more likely to be a successful relationship, because we're like-minded. Like, this is the stuff we like. And so we think marketing should be like this. And if they don't, our content scares them away. We're not for them. There's a whole bunch of people that come to our site, they taste some of this. Sometimes we swear. They don't want that. And this is okay, because, if our content alienates them, they probably won't like working with us. So it's a filter, not just a magnet. I think people need to think of content that way. It's not just attract everyone. It's no. Attract the ones who you're meant to work with and filter out the rest.
Be out there with what you believe in, and easier in the long run.
Yeah, it's so much better. Better.
Yeah. So, Doug, B2B marketing, what you've got to say, why do you prefer it? How is content merged with it so well? How do you go about finding the voice and personality? Because that is your area. That is it. That is the area that you've decided you prefer.
Yeah, voice is the thing, and as a huge part of it. But B2B for me, I started in B2C. I know you worked on Dove, and Dove was one of my first accounts at Ogilvy in New York in the 80s, and it's like, smoother skin and you look younger. And, and I got into a fabric softener account, and it was essentially saying, be a good mom, use this fabric softener. And I felt icky about that. I felt it was manipulating emotions, and women are sensitive about, are they good moms? And then you come at them with that, and didn't feel very good. And then I got onto a B2B account. It's like, oh, we got to make a case. We got to convince, and I loved it. It's like being a lawyer for your client. Like, you just got to really make a great case. And of course, over the years, I learned, there's a lot of heart there too. You can't leave behind that gut feel and that heart and the emotional core of it all. But there's an integrity to me about B2B. And it's harder. Like, it's a long purchase cycle. It's, a big buying team to please often. That's a big challenge. And if you like a watch company, it's like, let's get Pierce Brosnan or David Beckham to hold the watch up, and that's the ad. It's like, really? Is that a grown-up's job? It just doesn't feel fun to me. It's fake, And so I like the hard work of B2B. And once I tasted it, I really never felt tempted to go back.
Nice. Yes, marketing can get gimmicky, and it's trying to overcome that. Okay.
Yeah, great consumer marketing is still absolutely great. Both of my daughters work in consumer advertising and love it. And I love talking to them about it. But my thing is B2B. And as you say, content marketing is kind of dissolved into the mainstream. Like, early on, when it was super hot fad, people thought it's a fad. It's like, this is not a fad. Like, when's it going to be a bad idea to use your expertise to help your prospects? That's never going to go away. But what it did do is dissolve into marketing. And what you were saying about, you might get a kid right out of college having a head of content title or something. And so there's a risk that it becomes a bit industrialized and just that process we know how to do, as opposed to, no, this is too important not to do well. Content, generally well done content, is what works in all those little disciplines. I say little as if they're not hugely important. Of course they are. PR or SEO or conversion rate optimization or web conversion or, anything, all of them. Content, great content there is what makes them work. Like, that's what works. And try to do it without content. It's like, who would want a content-free brand? There's no there. And so I think it's one way to think of it is like, it's customer service for people who aren't yet customers, and you're helping them make decisions about their life or their job, even though they're not giving you money yet. And so there's an inherent generosity about it, which I like. It's like, you know what? In the old days, I interrupted what you were doing to say, hey, buy our stuff. And now it's like, no, I'm going to give you value, legitimate value, so that you can see that I am generous about this and want you to succeed, and that that we have some expertise to share and stuff like that. So I like the inherent generosity of it when done well.
Yeah, so nicely put, Doug. And there's a whole lot of humility to it also, that please like me, please keep me in your consideration when you come to buying. I hope I live up to what you need.
Yeah, but also like admitting who you're not for is one of my favorite things in marketing. It's like, be right up front. Like, you know what? If you've only got this many customers, our billing system probably isn't right for you. What a wonderfully confident, honest thing to do. And it says to everyone else who is in your group, wow, they're going to tell the truth. Like, look at them. They just alienated a whole bunch of possible buyers by saying they weren't right for them. And so that's a lovely, honest technique as well.
Yeah. So you have to be authentic. You just cannot be, if you are going to be, like they say that earlier, through a brand campaign, a brand will come out on a celebratory occasion, like you're meeting them at a party. But today, you have to meet the brand in their pajamas every day. They have to come out and every day greet you. So they have to be authentic.
I should have worn my pajamas today. That's very true. And it's, I always wonder with some of the really mediocre stuff we see, it's like, do you believe this is a good thing that you're marketing? Like in your heart, do you actually? Because if you did, you'd come out with that. That would be obvious. But when people aren't quite sure, they're not really convinced. They just kind of go through the motions. And, I feel like for us to do good work, and I know for me, I got to believe it. Like and I do, I tend to think this is great. I need to get people to understand why this is so important.
One question that walked up to me, and that was, if you had to specify 3 qualities of a great content writer, what would those be?
A great writer. So curiosity, really into figuring stuff out. Confident enough to bring voice and passion to it. And then integrity of doing the hard work of it, knowing when it's not good enough, being honest, don't bullshit your readers, like honor the reader, like serve the reader. Don't try to be dishonest, or don't try to, things that aren't, easy to understand. Like it's your job, like, work hard at it.
So, Doug, you have to be quick and you cannot elaborate. You cannot think. Spontaneous.
Right.
Okay. I shoot the question. If you don't shoot the answer, I shoot with the gun.
Okay.
Simple. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Mother's best advice.
Be nice.
Alternate profession could have been
lawyer.
What would you do on Mars for fun?
Try to breathe.
As per your partner, your most often used phrase.
To be honest.
What? Have you said it already?
Okay. It's to be honest. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. One thing no one knows about you.
Well, the banjo thing. No one knows I play the banjo, and I try not to.
Oh, no, we also don't know. We still don't know. Okay. A book you'd like to gift to all your friends.
There's a book called Difficult Conversations, which I do give to everybody, like everyone at Velocity and everybody. It's a wonderful thing about how to make a difficult conversation a constructive, effective thing. It's great.
Mm-hmm. What would you tell your 18-year-old self? Have
fun, relax. Be okay.
Okay. What's something new happening in your life right now?
Let's see. Well, I'm kind of experimenting with slowing down at work. So I'm working 2 days a week and figuring out what to do with the rest. And so that's a pretty big adventure.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
It's beach on New Jersey beach. It's the Atlantic Ocean. It's crowded. It's noisy. It's like smelly with food, and it's crashing waves and hot, and I loved it.
Okay. If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
I would try to bring America together. I think the division is tragic, and I think people are hating each other unnecessarily. And I know there's a lot of extreme nonsense out there, but I'd love to try to find a way to help fix that.
What's your greatest joy?
My kids, my two wonderful daughters, Hannah and Zoe.
How would you like strangers to remember you?
Gosh, do I need to be remembered? I guess as strangers, I fail. Shoot me. I don't have one.
What's a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
That doing your best is good enough. Like, I suffered for years with guilt, but I was doing my best. And there was an insight at some point. It's like, you know what? That is good enough. So I wish that's the.
Awesome. What is one missed opportunity that you wish you could have a second chance at?
I was once invited to be kind of a senior guy in a Bangkok office of an agency, and I was young, and I was maybe too scared and didn't. And who knows what my life would have been like.
What's next?
What is next? I'm going to do a trip in America that I'm really looking forward to, which is to wine country.
That is amazing. You did so well.
Thank you. Didn't get shot. That was scary.
Okay. Now it's a wrap up. I'd request you to share your online address, email, anything else that you'd like to share right now. All this will be part of show notes, but still, please.
Great. Okay, well, we're at velocitypartners.com, and you got content site there and also the blog, so that's a place to do. I'm Doug Kessler on Twitter. Like I said, I'm sitting it out a little bit. I'm on LinkedIn as Doug Kessler. So those are good places. And, for Podcast Recos, I'd say the Jagged podcast. I went and listened to some in preparation for this. I thought, this is good. I subscribed.
Yay! Thank you so much. It was great hosting you. Thank you so much for finding time.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me. Great conversation. Thank you.